This video is a full beginner's guide slash build along tutorial for how to make the ever popular A5 trifold notebook cover. And the best part about this one is there is no stitching at all. So even if you are brand new to leatherwork, this is a great project to get started with. This pattern is available in 3 different formats. First is the print ready PDF, so you can go ahead and print it on your home printer. The second is a laser ready slash source file. So if you want to cut them out on your laser cutter, or if you want to edit any part of this pattern in your favorite vector editing software, you can do that. And it will also be available as an acrylic pattern that I will ship out to you. Links to the patterns and the leather and the tools and the hardware and everything that we go over in this video are on the project page for this on our website, which is linked in the video description below. So go ahead and check that out. Let's get started. Let's start with my leather suggestions for this project. Luckily for us, this type of design gives you a wide variety of types of leathers that you can choose from. There are 2 things that I would keep in mind though. So here's an example of one that I already made. And the first thing that I would keep in mind is the temper of your leather. So the temper of your leather is going to be basically how firm or floppy it is. So if I were to start shaking this piece of leather here, you can see that, yeah, it's shaking, but it's not crumbling. It's holding its structure pretty well. So I would say this has a medium to medium firm temper. And that's really important when we're doing a design like this, because we need something that's going to hold up against this elastic always pulling on the edges all the time and on these holes here. So what happens if you'll see a lot of people making these and the sections down here, they start to buckle in. That's because the temper of their leather is too soft for what they're asking it to do. So when you're shopping around for a leather, if you're shopping in person, just grab it, give it a little shake and make sure it's holding its structure pretty well. So you're going to want to avoid garment leather. You're going to want to avoid upholstery leather, sheepskin, goatskin. Those are all really soft leathers. And yeah, so that would be what I would suggest as far as temper goes. And the weight, I'm using, so this is about 2.1 millimeters thick. And yeah, the 2 millimeter range is perfect. So it can be a little bit less than 2 millimeters or a little bit thicker than 2 millimeters. But that is an excellent middle ground. So for anybody using the ounce system, that's like 4.5 to 5 ounce leather. It's readily available. And again, that weight of leather will help resist the elastic really bending into the edges and bending and warping your holes down here. As far as the type of leather that I'm using, so this is an Italian veg tan leather. And if you are familiar with Louise Carmen, which is what people are modeling these off of, or Paper Republic, both of those companies use this exact type of leather. So links to all this stuff is on the project page on my website. But any type of medium to medium firm leather that's roughly around 2 millimeters thick, and you'll be good to go. Now let's talk about the choice you're going to have to make as far as elastic and hardware goes. So these journals are really basic. They're only leather, elastic cord, and these optional metal eyelets. But you are going to have to make a choice when you are ordering these supplies. For the project we're doing today and all of the other notebooks that I've made, I've chose 2 millimeter elastic cord and paired it with 3 millimeter holes and 3 millimeter eyelets. And I did that because this is the easiest combination to source. When you are looking for your elastic and your eyelets and your hole punches, you're going to want to make sure to do the right combination of size pairing. So if you are looking to do a daintier look, like to make it look like a Louise Carmen, you're going to want to look for 1.5 millimeter cord and 2 millimeter eyelets, which also would correspond to 2 millimeter holes. It'll end up being a little bit smaller than this look here. The problem with that is it's actually pretty difficult to find 1.5 millimeter cord. I had to go on Etsy and order it from overseas, which I'm still waiting for it to get delivered. I was hoping it was here by the time I did this project. But it is available. It's just harder to get. So if you wanted to go on Amazon right now, you can easily find 2 millimeter cord and get started tomorrow or as soon as it gets delivered. Here's another place I like to order my cord from. This is called Fujiyama Ribbon. So this comes direct from Japan, and this stuff is super high quality. But again, this one only comes in 2mm or 3mm. So if you do want to go the Louise Carmen dupe route, you're going to want to make sure to get the 1.5mm cord and pair it with a 2mm hole and 2mm eyelet. But if you don't care and you just want it to look like this, or you just want to get started as fast as possible, go ahead and get a 2mm cord and then get a set of 3mm brass eyelets. So again, I got these off of Amazon. They're not the highest quality in the world, but they do the job. See that? And you're going to have to get a setting tool. Here's the base. So this tool is made for this size eyelet, and it comes with all three of these pieces, which is awesome. So this is the tool that's going to punch the hole in your leather. And then this is the tool, the base and the post to which you use to set your eyelets. And again, these are going to set 3mm eyelets, links to the ones that the exact ones that I bought here off of Amazon. Let's talk about how to assemble the print PDF templates. So this is available in 2 different paper sizes for letter size paper printout and A4 size paper printout. So please make sure to select the one that matches the type of printer that you're using. Regardless of what type of printer you have, it is going to print out onto 3 different pages because this is a rather large pattern and it can't print out on one page. So what we're going to have to do is a little bit of assembly work, but it's very simple. I tried to make this as easy as possible. First thing I want you to do after you print out your pages, before you do any assembling, is please run the scale test here. So measure either this 1-inch square or this 25mm square and make sure that it measures exactly that size. If it's smaller on your ruler, that means you did not print it to scale. So go back and check your print settings and make sure everything is printing out to scale. Otherwise, your your leather notebook cover is going to be too small. When printing out your pages, I recommend using something like 110-pound cardstock. That way, we have a nice, durable template that we can use when we're tracing on our leather. If you just have regular paper like this, regular, printer paper, the best thing to do is to attach this pattern onto a more durable piece of material. So something like a really thin box, or what I'm going to use today, which is this heavyweight file folder. So these things are awesome for this purpose because you can unfold them like this and they're nice and durable. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue or tape down our pattern onto this file folder, and then we'll have a nice secure pattern to use. And another awesome thing is you can just grab another folder when you're done and you have a nice little folder for all of your pattern pieces. For our first step, you're going to need page number 1 and page number 3. So what we're going to be doing is cutting along that center dashed line on page number 1 and page number 3 so we can connect the A to the A and then connect the B to the B. To connect the pages, I use a piece of Scotch tape just to hold it in place so I can fold the page up and put some glue down on that overlap space so then when I fold the page back, it'll be nice and secure. I'm going to repeat this process on both sides. For a little bit of extra credit, I take some packing tape and tape over the entire front of the pattern. This helps protect it from any kind of moisture in case I spill something on it, and it also helps stiffen up the template a little bit. Next, I'm going to rough cut the pattern out. That means I'm going to leave a little bit of margin on all sides. I don't want to cut it directly to size just yet. Now it's time to add reinforcement so we have a nice strong template to work from and something that we can use many times over. So I'm taking my manila folder, unfolding it, and I'm going to glue my pattern down onto the manila folder. After giving the glue some time to dry, time to go ahead and cut out your pattern. Next step, we need to punch out all the holes for our elastic. So make sure to use the punch that matches the size eyelet you're going to be using. All right, now it's time to trace our pattern on our leather, but first we have to make a really important decision, and that's to decide what type of back attachment style we want. So you'll see 3 holes marked in the center of the pattern here, and at the top it'll say use these 2 holes for a double hole style, and at the bottom it'll say use this hole for a single hole style. And that is going to refer to what the elastic attachment looks like on the back of your notebook cover here. So in this example I've already done, this is the double hole attachment style. So the knot is tied on the inside and it comes out one side and wraps around the other side. So this is how the Louise Carmens look. If you don't want to do the double hole, you just want to use one single hole, that's going to be the choice you're making here. So if you're going to be using the double hole, you're going to be marking the 2 outside holes, so the one on the left and the one on the right. Do not mark the center. And if you just want to do the one single hole in the middle, then you're just going to mark that single hole there and do not mark the other 2 holes. So at no point will you be marking all 3 of these. You're either going to select the 2 outside holes together or the single hole in the middle. To mark the pattern on my leather, I'm using a scratch awl. So I recommend using a scratch awl versus a pen or something like that, because the scratch awl is going to give you a much finer line that then you can use to cut with your blade. I'm also using a couple of these little weights here just to hold the template in place while I mark the holes and mark around the perimeter. It's not required, but it helps in case you accidentally bump the template and move it. Having some extra weight somewhere else on a big template like this really helps to anchor it. After tracing, it's time to cut out your pattern. The first thing I do here is rough cut the pattern off of this shoulder here. It just makes it easier to move around, especially when you're cutting around curves and stuff like that. It's nice to be able to spin the leather with your hands. So I'm just rough cutting out the pattern, and then once I do that, I go ahead and cut it to size. This next step here is not required, so I'm not going to cover it in depth, but what you see me doing here is finishing my edges. So I'm using an edge beveler to bevel and round off the edges. Then I go over top of that with a black dye marker to change the color of the edge to black. And then I go over top of that with some burnishing compound called Tokonol. And then I use a hand burnisher to kind of shine up that edge and give it a nicer look. But again, this is not required. And a lot of the journals like Paper Republic and Louise Carmen's, they don't even do this. After finishing up the edges, it's time to punch out all the holes. So remember, you always have to match your hole punch to the size of the eyelets that you're using. So I'm using 3mm eyelets, so I use a 3mm hole punch. All right, this next step is going to be for anyone who is setting eyelets using a tool like this, so it has the post and the base. I've made a whole bunch of these in the past, and I've always found it difficult to, put the eyelet down into its little spot there on the base, and then kind of get the leather pop through, and making sure that the eyelet sits in that spot because you can't see it. It's under the leather. So I came up with this little hack that I like to do where I basically just stack everything through the hole. You don't have to do it this way, but I find it a lot easier to do. So what you do is first you'll push whatever hole you're working on. This is the outside. You'll push your eyelet through the hole. And then you take your tool and you push it through like that. Sorry. And now you take the base and you sandwich it into the center like that. And now all you have to do is turn it over, place it down, and then set your eyelet. It makes it a lot easier to make sure that your eyelet is properly seated in that little spot there. And always remember, when you're setting eyelets like this, make sure to do it on a firm surface. So I have a granite slab here. Your wooden table might not be enough. You really want a nice solid table. So even if you have to go outside to the concrete floor or something, just make sure that you have a nice firm surface underneath of your base. When setting these eyelets, keep in mind that you and your mallet are much stronger than this little piece of metal here. You don't have to hit it really hard. So just give it a couple swift taps, and you want to avoid smashing it too far in there. Otherwise, it'll disform and get stuck. Last step, we need to install our elastic cord. So it's a little hard to describe talking, so you can just watch it on the screen there. But to install the cord, what I do is I leave it on the spool, and then I go down through the first hole at the bottom and come back through the second hole there, go across the middle, go down through that second hole, and then back out through the very top hole there. And then I'll pull it through about 4 or 5 inches, something like that. I don't actually take measurements when I do this. I kind of just wing it. And then what you're going to do is pull it tight. You don't want to pull it so tight that it's bending the leather. And from there, what I do is I will cut around 4 to 5 inches off of the spool there. And then I use this little thread zapper tool to melt the edges of the fraying from the elastic. This is not required. You can also just use a lighter to do this. After that, I just tie a little knot. Again, you don't want to tie it so tightly that it's bending the leather, but just enough so it might be bowing like a little tiny bit, so it's nice and snug. And you're going to repeat that 3 times. Now for the loop closure, I'll cut usually about a 12 to 15 inch piece of elastic. I know that's going to be a little bit too big, but what you're going to do is you're going to feed one end through each of these 2 holes here from the outside to the inside. And then you're going to tie a loose knot, because what we're going to do is we're going to install these booklets here. And then once we fold everything up, we'll test fit our loop just to make sure we like how it fits. It's probably going to be too loose. So then what we're going to do is open it back up and then readjust the size of that knot. You can slide the knot down a little bit, or if it's too tight, you can back off one a little bit. So when it's closed, you're going to want to make sure that it's tight, but not so much that it's bending everything. Especially if you're going to be someone who's going to be stacking these full of books, you're going to want to make sure that you have enough slack that, it doesn't destroy your notebook cover. And after that, you're all done. That's all there is to it, guys. And you can add some nice personal touches like gold foil stamping names or initials. You can do some laser engravings. I love using my X-Tool F1 Ultra for this purpose. It makes it super fast and easy to engrave whatever I want exactly where I want it on the journal. And here's a look at our finished result. I really like how this one turned out. And here's some of the other trifolds I made using the same exact pattern. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below or email me directly. I hope you enjoy.